Hi, everyone, and welcome to English for You. I'm Erin.
Good.
Winnie, it's your turn.
Oh, what? Oh, whoops. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Winnie.
Are you finished your coffee now? Can we start?
Sure, I'm sorry. It's just that I found this new cafe down the road and they have such great coffee. Can't stop drinking it.
I'm not sure that's healthy for you.
Probably not, but it's just so good.
Can I have a taste?
Sure, go right ahead.
Hey, you're right. This is a delicious cup of joe.
I know. Wait. Cup of joe? What does that mean?
We're actually going to find out in today's article, so let's get started now.
Reading. Joe and Jane. When a name is more than a name. English has many strange phrases that include names. For example, will you be surprised if someone offers you a cup of joe? A cup of joe is a cup of coffee. How did Joe come to mean coffee? There are two main theories. One is that the phrase comes from Josephus Joe Daniels. Daniels was a secretary of the U.S. Navy during World War I. He wouldn't let sailors drink wine or beer while at sea. Thus, the men drank coffee and began calling it Joe after Daniels. Or so the story goes. The more likely story is that the phrase comes from another word used to say coffee, Java. An early example of this can be found in a Navy manual from 1931. It says, Jamocha, Java, Joe, coffee. Derived from the words Java and mocha, where the best coffee came from. Even if the truth is not as interesting, it still led to a pretty neat phrase.
Today's article starts out by saying, English has many strange phrases that include names. Now we see the verb include, spelled I-N-C-L-U-D-E, include here. Include means to make someone or something part of a larger group or set. For example, we could say, tonight's meal includes chicken, rice, and vegetables, as well as a drink and a dessert.
Include 是个动词，包含。刚刚这句你也可以改成说 I had a huge meal, including chicken, rice, vegetables, a drink, and a dessert. You're right, though. English has a lot of strange phrases, but I think it's also fun to learn about them.
That's true. There are many, but let's find out the first one we're talking about today. The article says, For example, will you be surprised if someone offers you a cup of joe? Would you be surprised, Winnie?
A cup of joe? That sounds scary. Well, we have to find out what a cup of joe actually means. The article says a cup of joe is a cup of coffee. We use joe to say coffee, but why?
Well, the article continues by saying, how did Joe come to mean coffee?
Yeah, how?
Now, the phrase come to means to begin to have a meaning, feeling, or opinion. For example, I'm originally from Canada, but I've come to think of Taiwan as my home.
Come to do something 是一个片语，意思是开始做什么什么，逐渐怎么样怎么样。像 Aaron 老师原本是来自加拿大，但现在开始渐渐的把台湾当做自己的家。That's actually very amazing. To think Taiwan as your home. How long have you been to Taiwan?
I've been here for almost 10 years.
Wow.
I know. Well, next the article says there are two main theories. Now we've got two vocabulary words here. The first, main, is spelled M-A-I-N, main, and it's an adjective. We use main to describe something that is the most important, largest, or the most frequently used. For example, I might say, I eat my main meal of the day at noon. I only eat small breakfasts and dinners.
这里我们看到前面这个形容词 main 表示主要的。如果同学有搭捷运，一定很常听到北车台北 Main Station because it's one of the most important stations. 因为这是其中最重要最大的车站。
Now, the next vocabulary word is the noun theory, spelled T-H-E-O-R-Y, theory. A theory is one or more ideas that explains how or why something happens. We might use theory in a sentence like this. Do you have any theories to explain what's making that strange noise?
Did you hear some noises that I didn't hear?
Maybe.
You know there are many ghost stories about this place.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, theory 在这里是理论，所以理论就是用来解释一些事情。最知名的理论，比如说牛顿定理 Newton's theory of gravity 或是爱因斯坦的 theory of relativity 相对论。So there are two explanations. What's the first theory?
Well, the article says one is that the phrase comes from Josephus Joe Daniels.
His name's the same as the phrase. Did he discover coffee or something?
Well, no, coffee was discovered a long time before
That's
him.
True.
But let's find a little bit more about it. The article says Daniels was the Secretary of the U.S. Navy during World War I. Now here, the noun secretary, spelled S-E-C-R-E-T-A-R-Y, secretary, is a government official in charge of a department. And that's why it has a capital S as well. Now in this case, Daniels was the government official in charge of the U.S. Navy.
以前我们学过 secretary 小写的 s 是秘书的意思，不过放在公家机关前面当抬头时就变大写，意思是某某某的部长或大臣。So what was he a secretary of?
Well, he was the secretary of the Navy. Now, Navy, spelled N-A-V-Y, Navy, is a noun. But again, in this case, it's a proper noun, so it also needs a capital letter. It means the part of a government's military that can fight at sea. Another example could be, this man is in the Navy, so he lives and works on a large ship.
Okay, that explains who he is. But now why is his name used in the phrase?
Good question. We're going to get to that next. The article says, he wouldn't let sailors drink wine or beer while at sea. Now we see the noun sailor here, spelled S-A-I-L-O-R, sailor. A sailor is someone who works on a boat or a ship. Another example might be, the captain of the ship told the sailors to meet on the ship's deck at once.
我们看到 sailor 后面是 or 结尾，就知道这是一个职业啦。sail 有动词航行的意思，也可以当名词表示风帆，例如 a sailboat。所以 sailor 就是水手啦。You might hear it from Popeye the Sailor Man, 大力水手。So let me guess, if the sailors weren't allowed to drink wine or beer, they probably wanted to drink coffee.
Well, they have to stay awake somehow. The article says, thus the men drank coffee and began calling it Joe after Daniels, or so the story goes. Now, the phrase call something after somebody means to give something the same name as a person. In this example, the sailors are calling coffee the same name as Joe Daniels, the Secretary of the U.S. Navy.
因为 Josephus Joe Daniels 让他们喝咖啡，所以水手们就以他的名字简称 Joe 来叫咖啡。We also saw the phrase so the story goes, which is today's shortcut for you. Let's take a quick break to learn more about this phrase.
Shortcut for you.
Hey, what are you reading about?
Oh, George Washington.
The president?
The first American president, yes.
What was so special about him anyway?
Besides being president, there's a lot actually. Apparently, he never told a lie, and he had wooden teeth, or so the story goes.
Don't ruin the story for me. I want to read it too.
The phrase, So the story goes means something is commonly believed.
I see. So the story goes is 据说是如此.
That's right. People say when Washington was little, he cut down his father's cherry tree. When his dad saw this, Washington told him what he did and said, he can't tell a lie, or so the story goes.
Is that a real story?
Probably not, but that's how the story goes.
So the phrase, so the story goes, is used to describe something that people are saying, although it may not be correct.
Oh, so if that's just a story, what is the other theory?
Well, let's see what the article says. The more likely story is that the phrase comes from another word used to say coffee, Java. Java. Now, this is an Indonesian island that produces coffee, which is where the word Java comes from.
What? Well, that wasn't an English word before?
That's right, but now it is. Now, let's find out how Java came to mean a cup of joe. The article says, an early example of this can be found in a Navy manual from 1931.
Wow.
Now, the noun manual, spelled M-A-N-U-A-L, manual, is a book that contains instructions for doing or making something. For example, we might say, Caitlin was able to build the desk because she used the instructions in the manual.
Manual 是手册，新的家具啊或是电器都会附上一本 manual to tell you how to use it properly. 很多人都是像例句中的 Caitlin 一样，要看手册上的操作指南才会组装。So this theory also came from Navy. What did the manual say?
The article tells us. It says, Jamocha, Java, Joe, coffee.
Those must be other names of coffee. Jamocha. I wonder if that has something to do with mocha.
That's exactly it. The manual also said, derived from the words Java and mocha, where the best coffee came from. Now, the phrase derive from means to form one word or phrase from another one. In this example, the words Java and mocha were used to create words Jamocha and Joe to mean coffee.
所以海军手册上其实就有明载啦 Jamocha, Java, Joe 这些咖啡名称事实上是源自于 Java and Mocha 这两个咖啡产地。源自于除了文章里的 derived from, 我们也可以说 originated from the word Java and Mocha. I know this might be the reality, but it's just not cute. I think I like the first theory better.
There's nothing wrong with that. The article even says, even if the truth is not as interesting, it still led to a pretty neat phrase. Now, the adjective neat, spelled N-E-A-T, neat, doesn't mean tidy or clean in this sentence. Instead, it means very good, pleasant, or enjoyable. For example, Karen had a neat idea. She thinks we should make puppets for a craft today.
Actually, when I traveled to the U.S. the first time, I noticed some people say that's neat.
Right.
Instead of something like that's cool. Is that the same meaning?
It is, actually. We say that's neat and that's cool the same way.
And is this the same meaning as here? Neat phrase?
Yes, it's a neat phrase. It's kind of like a cool phrase to use.
Oh, I really learned a lot about coffee today. Do you think we should go get another cup of joe?
Sure, but before we do, let's finish up with today's For You chat.
For You Chat.
Alright, today's For You chat is, do you ever use someone's name in another way to describe something? Like, for example, here is cup of joe. Do you do that?
We do. There's actually quite a few phrases in English that use people's names in them. One of them that's often used by people in the military or on the radio is Roger that.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah, they say that when they've received and understood a message.
Oh.
Right. So maybe if they're talking on a walkie-talkie to someone in another room and the person gives them an instruction, they say, Roger that.
Yeah.
And they know they have to do it.
Roger that 是比如说我们在用对讲机的时候，我们收到指令就会Roger that 收到了。What else do you use that?
Well, there's another one which actually should be quite common in Taiwan because I see this in many different restaurants here.
What is that?
It's called a lazy Susan. Now, it doesn't sound
Susan
great.
is lazy?
Yeah, Susan might be lazy, but in this case, a lazy Susan is a tray on a table that spins around so you can move food to the other side.
Oh, so like Chinese restaurant, they usually have that.
Yeah.
Lazy Susan 我们这个中文叫什么啊？就是放在餐厅的餐桌的正中间，你会把食物放在上面，你可以转它，所以你要吃东西的时候，你会先转一下，把你的食物放在你的正前面，你才能够夹到。Lazy Susan, interesting.
Yeah, the funny thing about lazy Susans actually is they're not very common in Canada, and the only place I would see them in Canada were in Chinese food restaurants.
Chinese restaurant?
Yeah. So now that I'm in Taiwan, they're very common and they're in almost every restaurant. But there's another phrase that we use which is kind of interesting. It says, Bob's your uncle.
Bob is not my uncle.
Well, Bob's not my uncle either, but we don't use it that way.
Oh.
When we say Bob's your uncle, we're actually meaning you're all set or you've got it made. It also might be like you have the perfect situation. Like, this is great. You're all ready.
Oh, when would you say that?
Well, say someone is moving to university and they're about to leave their house. They've got everything in their car and they get to their new town. They drive to their new town and they get to their apartment.
All settle in?
Yeah, and they're all settled in and everyone's feeling happy about their new place to live and maybe the parents are a little bit sad. But then the apartment is perfect. Your father could say, you've got it made, or Bob's your uncle.
Wow, I wonder the origin.
I'm not really sure about the origin for that, actually. And to be honest, I don't really know the origins for any of these, but I do know they're all common in English.
All right, maybe we can do another articles about them, too.
I'm sure we could probably fill out an article with them. But unfortunately, that's all the time we've got for today. So for English for You, I'm Erin.
And I'm Winnie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Joe and Jane. When a name is more than a name. English has many strange phrases that include names. For example, will you be surprised if someone offers you a cup of Joe? A cup of Joe is a cup of coffee. How did Joe come to mean coffee? There are two main theories. One is that the phrase comes from Josephus Joe Daniels. Daniels was a secretary of the U.S. Navy during World War I. He wouldn't let sailors drink wine or beer while at sea. Thus, the men drank coffee and began calling it Joe after Daniels, or so the story goes. The more likely story is that the phrase comes from another word used to say coffee, Java. An early example of this can be found in a Navy manual from 1931. It says, Jamocha, Java, Joe, coffee. Derived from the words Java and mocha, where the best coffee came from. Even if the truth is not as interesting, it still led to a pretty neat phrase.
Vocabulary Review.
Include. The price seems high because it includes service and delivery fees. Main. I didn't like the main character in the movie, but I liked the other characters. Theory. It's just a theory right now. It hasn't been proven yet. Navy. The U.S. Navy has ships out at sea all over the world. Sailor. The sailor has been at sea for a year now.